this, my brothers and sisters, most of the time when we say, let me think about it, we're thinking subliminally, we're thinking, okay, most likely I'll say no, but let me just think about it. Let me go over the options that I have. In other words, we start with an assumption that I'll say no, but why rush into things? I mean, they don't have a gun pointed to my head. Give me tonight, I'll think about it. The minute, using the example of Salat al-Maghrib, when you come back from work, if you've made a commitment to pray every time, even before you have your dinner, then you'll pray. And the shaitan won't even try to distract you. But if you do not make the commitment and you say, okay, I'm tired, let me just sit here for 5 minutes and then I'll pray, that's when the shaitan begins to lure you into abandoning prayer altogether. And he doesn't do it all of a sudden. That's the thing about the shaitan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us in the Quran, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Do not follow the steps of the shaitan. He does it in steps. You know those 7-step programs? Which the shaitan takes all the time he has. It's not 7 steps, it can be 7,000 steps. It doesn't matter. But eventually his aim is to make you a kafir. If he can't make you a kafir, at least he'll force you to leave your prayer, to abandon your wajibat, your religion, your faith. The imams begin to have doubts, but you only have doubts, and you have to remember this, you only have doubts when you have not made a clear commitment to say no. So make the commitment, that's the first thing we need to do. 2, after the commitment, monitor yourself. What's monitoring? Always treat yourself with caution, with suspicion. Never give yourself the benefit of the doubt. When you're talking about other people, give them the benefit of the doubt. But when you're talking about yourself, always assume that other people are better than you. And that's a big step to take. That's very hard. To assume that everyone in this hall is better than me is always a difficult thing for me to do. You know why? A person comes to Imam al-Sadiq, to the leader of our sect, Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And he says to him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, you're telling me that I should always think of people, assume that other people are better than I am. But you know what? Some people are better than I am. But some others, I know that they're not better than me. I've seen them drink, I've seen them commit adultery, God forbid, I've seen them do things that I would never do. So I know they're worse than me. They're always lower than my rank. You know what the Imam says to him? He says to him, how do you know that they will end up, when they're about to die, how do you know that you'll end up better than they are? And then the Imam mentions a beautiful example. He says to him, remember the sorcerers and the magicians of Pharaoh? They woke up in the morning being kafirs. They died in the evening as being faithful martyrs. How do you know that this person is going to end up being worse than you? He might be bad today, but maybe he's going to be good tomorrow and you'll be bad tomorrow. Always give people the benefit of the doubt. That's 1. Always treat yourself with suspicion. Whenever you're about to do something, think, hey, there must be some sort of an ulterior motive in this. I must be doing this because there is a direct benefit to me, and this has nothing to do with God, even though it seems like I'm doing this for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always treat yourself with suspicion. That's the 2nd step. The 3rd step, monitoring, involves you taking steps to go forward. That's why traditions tell us, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يُحَاسِبْ نَفْسَهُ فِي كُلِّ لَيْلَةٍ. He is not among us, he is not one of us, who does not hold himself accountable every night. Commitment, monitoring, accountability. Every night, just take a few minutes. You know, we say this all the time. I'm sure this isn't the first time you've heard this. But taking a few moments at night before you go to bed to simply go over the events of that day. Just skim over them very quickly. You don't have to go through every single event. Very quickly. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? And I assure you, you'll remember all the bad things that you did, because when you're about to do them, you undergo this vicious struggle within you that says, don't do it. Your conscience says don't do it. The outside conditions say do it. So these are the 3 steps. Once you go through those steps, you become a person of faith. And a person of faith is categorized by many features, many qualities, but one of them is courage. You see, a person who assumes the pulpit or the podium and begins to deliver a lecture for the first time in his or her life, that takes courage. A person who surrenders himself to the needles and the scalpels in a hospital, he's got courage. But the true manifestation, the quantum level of courage, is when you face someone with one sword in your hand and another in his, and you're defending not yourself but someone else. That is true courage. An even greater level of courage is when you're outnumbered. It's not 1-to-1. It's 73 to 60,000. Now that takes a great deal of courage, my friends. We don't know what it feels like to be in that position, but we can try. 73 facing 60,000. 73 who are thirsty. Their thirst has not been quenched for the last 3 days. The army's all fresh and ready to fight, and you have no one to back you up. An even greater level of courage is when you're only 15 years old, 16 years old, 20 years old, 11 years old. And you have to hold a sword and go fight the enemy so that you would protect your leader, your master, Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, that you know will not make it eventually. Now that takes a great deal of courage, my friends. That takes a great deal of faith in the heart. And it's that faith that drove those people on the day of Ashura. Nothing else could have driven them to reach those levels of bravery other than true faith and love for the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they're about to leave the city of Medina, Imam al-Hussein bids his little young daughter Fatima as-Sughra farewell. She cries, he cries. It's a very emotional time. And everyone bids everyone else who's staying back farewell. They're about to go when Abdullah ibn Ja'far runs after the caravan. Traditions tell us that he called out the name of his wife, Lady Zainab alayhi salam, and he says to her, "Come." She comes back and he says to her, "You're going away, but you're not taking any souvenirs. I can't leave you go empty-handed. Look at you, you're all going. I want you to accompany our 2 sons along with you, Aoun and Muhammad." Imagine for Lady Zainab, this great woman who saw the worst of all calamities that history has ever brought to mankind. She saw the calamities that befell her father, the calamities that befell her mother. She was with her mother when she was slapped on the face and her earring broke and fell to the ground. She was there when they attacked her house and they tried to burn it down, and Fatima az-Zahra was kicked and crushed between the wall and the door. She saw all of that. She witnessed all of those things. And then she saw her brother Imam al-Hasan vomit his own liver and blood out of his mouth. She saw all of those things. She saw when her brother's corpse was showered with arrows. She saw all those things, and now she even has to take her 2 sons as souvenirs of Abdullah ibn Ja'far, as gifts for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Aoun and Muhammad, they accompany Lady Zainab. They of course stand by Imam al-Hussein, their cousins, and all the other members of this great camp of heroes. When they go to Karbala, the companions are killed. No one is left. The first to be killed is Ali al-Akbar. They then go to their mother, Lady Zainab. They sit down. Their mother begins to exhort them and to give them hope and to give them the encouragement that they need to go and fight. She begins to tell them, "I want you to stand by your uncle, O Aoun, O Muhammad. I want you to stand by him. I want you to protect him." When that happens, they rejoice and they tell their mother, "Oh mother, we are very much ready to go and fight, and we thank you for giving us permission to go." She helps them, Imam al-Hussein helps them. They mount the back of their horses. They go towards the enemy. They begin to fight. Al-Qasim is waiting. Al-Qasim's turn hasn't come yet. He's waiting, he's standing there. He seeks permission to go and fight with them, but he's not given that permission. He's looking at his own cousins, Aun and Muhammad, fighting the enemy. When Aun, the elder of the two, he falls from the back of his horse calling, Ya Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. And then soon after him, his brother Muhammad calls out, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, which was a sign that we're about to leave you, ya Aba Abdullah. We are so sorry. We tried to protect you, but this is all we had to offer. We had our lives to offer.